Get it, man. Back with another episode of Out the Gate Podcast. We got some different stuff going on, man. We got a couple cameras in here. We got a different background. As you can see, we're in a different environment. We got to take this shit back to the origin, man. And we got a special guest today. Before I bring him out, quick introduction. Someone I've known for over a decade now. Someone I've entrusted with getting me ready to embark on my dream and my journey from my senior year of high school all the way through college, all the way through my professional career. Someone I've leaned on as a mentor on and off the field. Has trained the likes of Nate Hobbs from Louisville, Kentucky, myself, Wan'Dale Robinson, Tennessee Titan, the late great Wan'Dale Moore, Green Bay Packer Carrington, Valentine, Cleveland Brown, Malachi, Corley. Has probably raised north of anywhere between $100 to $500 million in U.S. currency of scholarships for athletes to chase their dreams at the collegiate level. As I said, this has expanded into the professional level. In my opinion, the best trainer in the United States, man. The owner, CEO of Aspirations Fitness Institution. Someone I'm glad to call a friend, a mentor, and my trainer, man, Chris Vaughn. So we here, man. First guest, Chris Vaughn. Welcome to Out the Gate Podcast, man. If anybody from Louisville, you know this face probably looks familiar. You probably see him out and about, headphones in, looking intimidating and whatnot. You know, depending on if you're a Louisville, Kentucky fan, you might have mixed feelings. No, I'm just kidding. But man, like I said in the intro, Chris Vaughn, former D1 NFL athlete, now one of the most recognized trainers in all of the nation, in my opinion. Like I said, man, welcome to the show. And, part of Out the Gate Podcast, we're here to tell your full story, man. So this all started in New Haven, Connecticut, something I know very little about. So tell me about that environment, kind of how that shaped you and the things you feel like it molded you in to turn you into the man you are today.
I guess growing up in New Haven, a city somewhat similar to Louisville.
Okay.
Some of my best friends growing up, was 5 of us, 3 of us didn't make it. So, one of my closest friends from day one and whatnot, one of my day ones, it's me and him really, but like the gang violence, the pressure to do the dudes and stuff like that, and to jump into stuff you ain't got no business doing is real. So for me, like ball was something that just kept me focused, and sports in general was just something that kept me focused on doing something with my life. So I always grew up with a passion and wanting to do that and help instill that in the next wave. So I had a lot of people to help me along the way, so I'm doing my part.
Respect that. You talked about a lot of people that helped you along the way. Obviously, I said in the intro, you're someone that I can speak to for myself as a mentor for me, but a lot of the guys that I've came through this gym with, I believe would say the same thing. You're a mentor to them. Can you kind of speak on, your upbringing and mentors you had along the way that you felt like, helped you get into the position to where you're able to impact others and do God's work, in my opinion, that you're doing right now?
No, for sure. Definitely my mom and dad both played a pivotal role in just shaping me to who I am. My mentor, Adrian Weber, who was me to, what I hope to be to a lot of the kids that I've worked with during this time and stuff like that, was somebody who's been pivotal in my life. From the time I was playing sports to even today, somebody I pick up and call whenever I don't know, whatever may be going on, something in life, something with, another kid, just something in general, just picking his brain for wisdom. I think it's important that we reach out to those who got more wisdom and are elder than us and stuff like that, and try to learn and really have a heart to listen.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. Absolutely. And so, you spoke on playing sports as a kid. You said you were very active. That's kind of what kept you on the straight and narrow. Can you kind of speak to the sports you did play? And, obviously we know you went to play D1 in football, which we're going to touch on. But speak on the sports you did play, and then at what point that you knew football was essentially the direction you were going to take, and when you started taking it seriously that you feel like?
I grew up playing whatever I could. I was just outside all day long. I wanted to go out and run around.
Right.
I wasn't the type that I wanted to play in a video game. I was trying to be in a video game. Like when I was a young dude, that's just how I was cut. Like I looked at that like, y'all are playing Madden. I'm gonna be in Madden one day,
Right.
or NBA All Star. I'm gonna be in one of them either. I'm gonna be in all of them. Matter of fact. So anything that was active, I was on it. From track to baseball to basketball to football. Baseball growing up was probably my best sport, but baseball kind of dies out in the hood and whatnot. So like like as we got older, people with money, like, they kind of ran us out. So we went from, being talented young kids to, we couldn't afford the batting cages and stuff like that. So that washed out. Then I played basketball, ended up at St. Thomas More. Had a scholarship to Syracuse for basketball. Originally, I was committed to Syracuse to go play basketball. St. Thomas More is one of the top 5 schools in the country basketball-wise, and, didn't even play any football. My boy was actually going there to go play football. I told him, tell the coach, just, throw it to me deep. I'll go up and go get the football for him. Joking around, he met me at the registration office with my dad and was like, hey, I see you at practice today. And my dad was like, nah, it's a basketball player. And right when he said it to me, I was like, you pissed me off. Like, what you mean? Like, as if I couldn't go out there and go do that for real.
Right.
And so really just, that was my personality. Just the fact that he even said that to me.
Yeah.
I was at practice that day and they had recruited a bunch of dudes that were, committed to Texas Tech and all kind of stuff. And I was wide receiver 1 my first year after not playing since Little League and whatnot. And so just competitive, like, what I'm saying, just wanted to do it, like wanted to smoke for real, like, like what people thought was hard. Whatever people thought was hard is what I wanted to do. You make it look easy.
Sure. And so you saying you didn't start playing football till what year is this in high school?
I played in Little League, but it was my junior year when I went to prep school. I didn't play, until, probably since Little League. So I played up till 8th grade, and I didn't play at all, and then I came back and played my 11th grade year.
I can definitely relate to, you were speaking on your dad, like, no, he's a basketball player. One year, 2 instances I can think of. One time in the barber shop, dudes is sizing up me and my brother, like, what they play? Like, I know they play sports or something. He's like, yeah. Points to my big brother. He's like, yeah, he's football. Him, though, he's. So I'm like, what the fuck do that mean? What is he's basketball? And then on Christmas that year, he got us these, like, wooden plaques with our names on them. And my big brother, his had a football on it. Mine had a basketball on it. And I'm like, nah, I can't get with this. Because, my pops played football. So, I'm trying to go pops route. But so you didn't start playing football till your junior year. Speak on just that first season, when you started getting college attention and then just kind of ease into what your recruiting process was like.
So I guess right off the rip, like, we went from basketball season, which, obviously, like, kicks off at first and whatnot, but played through the season and started playing football and whatnot. And, like, right there, I think I led the team in touchdowns that year. I don't know what the final numbers were, but, like, I did enough to, get noticed and whatnot, and a lot of schools started coming through. Obviously, I had the size and whatnot, and I wasn't no route runner, but I was really just running go route. I was catching kicks and punts and, scoring on kicks and punts and anything, like, in the screen game. And so, my mentor started putting some time into me with it, and I was looking at it like, we had 4 dudes on our basketball team that went to the NBA. And those dudes were good. I was athletic and I was competitive. I was the most competitive dude out there, but those dudes were way better in basketball than I was. And I was like, this football shit is easy for real. Like, I really can just run by these niggas whenever and just, like, like, go vertical for real. So play was Chris Slant, Chris Hitch, Chris Go. You know what I'm saying? And that's just pretty much what I did right off the rip. So I just looked at it like football was an easier route for me at the time, especially looking at how good those dudes were in basketball, because that's when I first got a real reality check that, like, you're not really like that for real. You just tougher than these dudes are for real. So I was on some, like, bully ball, like, I'm going to compete, I'm playing defense, I'm locking up whoever. But, like, on the football side of it, it was just like, I just go catch this football and just keep running. This is easy.
This is a big debate amongst athletes. And I'm glad you touched on this. So let's just go ahead and dive into this real quick. You train all athletes. Can you break down the similarities and differences, or who you feel like is the better athlete between peak basketball player, peak football player?
Football's just different, man. It just requires so much more. You got to get out the elements. First of all, football dudes are tougher. So, like, let's just start there, right? Tough dudes win in life, regardless, right? So let's be clear on that. So, when it's raining, you ain't playing no basketball game in the rain in the gym. You know what I mean? You don't got to deal with the elements of the heat. Yeah. It might be a little hot in the AU, summertime, but shit's air conditioned, fanned, and all of that kind of shit. Football, you got to figure that shit out on your own, for real. So, like, bring your own guts. You know what I mean? Like, and if you're tough, really, like, you can find a way to win. I believe in that will over skill all day long. I think a lot of, it's a lot of skill development that goes into sports in general, which on the basketball side is good and well. You got to be able to hit the jumper in the mid-range and work your handle and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, somebody's just tougher in football and stuff like that, and that you end up coming out on top 9 times out of 10. So I'm going to err on toughness.
Man, look, the example I always use, basketball, like, if I really get mad at somebody, like, what I'm going to do? Foul you hard, that's probably the most gruesome thing I could do, or take you to the rack. Like, football, all bullshit aside, if me and you got a problem and this play is going over here Now we can really settle this as men. Ain't nobody gonna break it up. I can put your ass on the ground, hold you down like you a fucking kid, and get no trouble for it. You know what I'm saying? So I just feel like football, it's got just more real repercussions than basketball. And, you know, don't get me wrong, I got respect for my basketball guys for sure, but I'm with you, man. I'm with you. But let's get back into the recruiting. Like I said, you start popping off your junior year. You're seeing that, you know, your athleticism easily translates into football. The game's coming easy to you. Notre Dame is a school that is one of the most prominent, storied franchises, universities in college football. Talk about how they got involved, kind of the feeling you had when, you know, big schools like that start calling your phone, start coming to the house, and, yeah, just what kind of led you to make a decision to start your college career off with the Fighting Irish.
So I got my first offer that summer from the University of Buffalo. That was like a warm-up trial run, kind of go out there and let me see what I got.
Right.
Went to Michigan State after. They offered me. Went on, started playing my senior year with those two offers in the bag. First couple games into the year, I had a bunch of touchdowns and whatnot. Went up, caught a one-hand interception. And I remember Iowa offered me after. And then Tom Lemons, who was like the godfather of this whole recruiting thing back, you know, even back before I was even playing, he was doing it. It's funny because he's interviewing some of the kids now. And so, like, you know, it's
Full circle.
It's funny to see a full circle like that. But like he came and did an article on me, and after that he really blew my recruitment up. And I went from like, you know, 5 or 6 offers to like 30 offers, like, you know, just in a matter of a week almost. It seemed like. So Notre Dame obviously came, and Coach Willingham was there, and came in talking to my mom. And my mom was huge in the church and whatnot, and he was hitting with some scripture and whatnot, and shit was curtains for me. For real, mom wasn't going for real. So after he did that to her, for real, like. It was a wrap. She was telling me I was going to Notre Dame. I probably would have tried to go to USC or UCLA because I like the West Coast for real, but she wasn't going. So I went in there and rocked with Notre Dame. I was at a private prep school too, so a lot of people at the school like carry on that Catholic tradition and all that kind of stuff. And so with Notre Dame being the brand that it is, that was the decision I ended up making.
Okay. And so before we kind of dive into that, you spoke on, you know, you just being this raw prospect. You said you weren't much of a route runner. Me having come through this gym, I've seen you turn guys just like how you're describing yourself and make them precise route runners, make them precise athletes, make them more agile. What is it that you feel like 15-year-old, 16-year-old Chris Vaughn could have used from 30-year-old, 35-year-old Chris Vaughn that could have changed the trajectory of your career? I mean, you still ended up making it where you wanted to as far as Notre Dame, but polishing your game, maybe stuff you knew about yourself as a younger version of you mentally that maybe you felt like you had a lapse. What do you feel like the older you could have provided the younger you that you do so many kids in this gym way back when?
I think the biggest thing is to understand nutrition. You know what I mean? I was out there crashing out every day. Like, I run all day long. I'm going to go run 2-3 times a day. Don't make a difference. Like, so I was with whatever.
Right.
I ain't had no outside interests. I just wanted to play sports and make it, and that's what I wanted to do. So, you know, just go without no proper nutrition. So I try to instill in a lot of the kids now, like, just about what protein means, what proper rest looks like, what proper recovery looks like, and stuff like that, so they can turn around and really maximize themselves. The other thing that I wish I would have done differently to, like, you know, really just change the dynamic of it was just, like, the skill development aspect of it. I was just, like I said, a raw athlete. You put me in one-on-ones, like, I wasn't going to get checked. But any kind of drill work or understanding of, like, you know, defense or, like, how to line up or alignment, I was way behind on that. So I try to spend a lot of time on just the mental aspect of sports, you know, beyond just, you know, like the competitive nature of it, but also, like, the holistic approach of, like, you know, doing the small things right, like the stretching, the flexibility, and all of that kind of stuff, and how much of a difference that makes.
So when do you feel like your eyes really opened to nutrition? Like, you spoke on that being one of the main things that you wish you could have gave your younger self. I see how strenuous you are on it with the younger guys in here. You know, you guys got the refrigerator back there with meal plan stuff in there, shakes, you know, pre-workout, whatever the case is. You know, kids got to their access what they need. What was the turning point for you to where this became a priority? Because, you know, like I said, having trained in this gym, the work is going to happen. That's non-negotiable. But when do you feel like you turn the corner as far as nutrition? Because, like I said, having known you as long as I have, it wasn't always like this. So what do you feel like the turning point was, and kind of what information or person did you come across that opened your eyes to the importance of it?
So my biggest thing was when I was playing myself, I dealt with a bunch of injuries. And so just dealing with a bunch of injuries and stuff like that and just figuring out how to stay healthy, like, you know, I'm sitting scratching my own brain trying to figure out what the fuck's going on. Like, how the fuck can I stay up out of this, you know, like, training room and stuff like that, from knee surgeries to fractured back in college, had 3 different knee surgeries and whatnot, and so like, how can I stay healthy? And that really led me to just kind of dive into like more information. I'm the type of person that like once I get to looking into some stuff, I'll go down a rabbit hole with it. So I got to doing a bunch of like experimentation with my body and just like trying different foods, different time windows of eating, just understanding the nutrition side on a totally different level. I think on the training side, I always knew what work looked like, and I always knew how to instill a mentality. But I think just incorporating that part of it just gave me some balance that was well needed and stuff like that, just coming from a different angle. Because I started looking at like even what bodybuilders do, to how they go about preparing their body and the supplements they take, and just really learning about supplementation and just the whys and the importance of that kind of stuff. And like once I kind of married those two together, I think that really took the whole training aspect to a whole nother level. And so I think the kids have really continued to develop at high levels quicker as a result of the combination of the two.
Yep. And I mean, I think that's super important with, NIL and, the competition for high school kids to, go to their dream school fresh out of high school has definitely become harder just because, as a college coach, there is a level of why would I take a chance on a 17, 18-year-old kid who's, in their eyes, probably underdeveloped when I can go get this 3rd or 4th year guy who's already been in college, already been in a college weight room, already understands the nutrition aspect of things, to come help and be ready to produce right now. But like you said, if you can introduce these kids to this one thing as far as nutrition, like you said, the work's going to happen. I feel like that just puts them ahead of the curve and, gets them in positions that they aspire to be in. So I definitely admire that. And, I feel like that's why Aspirations always puts guys out. But so we talked about you signing and committing to Notre Dame. They won moms over, and that was all she wrote. Talk about, when you get to campus, kind of your experience there, and that'll lead into where you ended up next.
So, yeah, my experience at Notre Dame right off the rip was, first of all, shit wasn't for me. So I made the wrong decision right out the get-go. Took an official visit. As soon as I got on campus, I had an interview with the president of the university to figure out whether or not they wanted to let me in the school. My grades were good, and I had, straight A's the time I was at the prep school. But prior to that, for like, I wasn't a big school guy. I didn't really like school. School was easy for me, but I didn't like school. That wasn't my interest. So. Right. I had basically 2 years of 4.0. I had another 2 years of barely making it. You know what I'm saying? Halfway knowledgeable sometimes. Yeah. So they're trying to figure out who I was. You know what I mean? And the truth was, I was exactly who didn't need to be on that campus. So, but anyway, I went in there, and it was a good experience. I learned a lot from it. Still close with some of my coaches. It's full circle still. They still recruit some of my kids. Still to this day, and some of the coaches that I had then were there. But, Notre Dame's a different place. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, those are kids that are really focused on academics has been instilled in them, and not that it wasn't instilled in me. I never do my parents a disservice like that, which is, I was trying to play ball. Yeah, bottom line, you know what I mean, stuff like that. And I understood I had to do school because I wanted to play ball, not the other way around. Yeah. So, you know what I mean? I got it a little sooner than I probably should have got it.
Means to an end, really.
Yeah.
I feel you. So, as you said, the Notre Dame experience, while you learned a lot, simply wasn't for you, and that leads you to the 502, man, the University of Louisville. Speak to kind of your introduction to Louisville, how they worked their way into the process of getting you to transfer over there, and just ease into exactly how that went.
Yeah, so I'm in an all-out brawl with Charlie Weiss at the time because I'm trying to transfer. I'm trying to, leave the university. He's blocking my transfer, tells me he won't let me leave. So I want to go to USC. I want to go to Michigan. He tells me I can't go to either one of them. They're on the schedule. So he's making it difficult. And I can remember, meeting Brian Brom at the All-American game. We had played in the All-American game together. And actually, I broke my wrist, so I couldn't play, but I was down there for the weekend. Okay. And so we were both, high school All-Americans that year. Tom Lemons again, who ran the All-American game and whatnot. And the name of the game has changed 3 or 4 different times, since I was a kid. But, we had a bunch of guys that played in that year, and so Brian was there. And I met Brian. I remember looking at Notre Dame when I was hurt one time at the hospital. They played Cincinnati. Coach Horton probably was on one of them teams and stuff like that. It was like 70-7, right? Just beat the shit out of Cincinnati. Right? And I was like, damn, they scoring points for I go over there and go catch the ball over there. They throwing that shit. So, when I was blocked at Michigan and USA, I was like, I would try Louisville and stuff like that. I feel like I can go in there and go get off real quick and then go get to the league. Yeah. So that whole thing kind of came full circle. Ended up talking to Coach Petrino, and next thing you know, I was on campus.
It's crazy you say that. By the time you joined Louisville, was really pinnacle of my childhood between, like you said, Brian Brown, Michael Bush, Yerudia, Harry Douglas, Johnny Patrick. I can still remember watching the Rutgers game when we jumped off sides, and They got to re-kick the field goal, man. I remember watching the Orange Bowl with Wake Forest, so that was definitely some good times. You still being here in Louisville, kind of speak to just some of the lessons you learned while being in the university, what you've grown to appreciate about the city, and kind of what's really just kept you here, I guess you could say.
Notre Dame was a totally different experience in Louisville, and so coming from Notre Dame to Louisville, it was a culture shock a bit. Louisville was a real more of a southern city, I would say. With some inner city to it, like in different spots of the city.
Right.
And so no sports team there, so like Louisville is the city and stuff like that. And so at a place like Notre Dame, like a rival was USC, but that's like some preppy school almost type of thing. Like the USC Louisville kind of rivalry was like kind of rooted in like real blood right there, some real smoke behind that one right there. So all of that just felt different. I think like just being at Louisville and stuff like that, just being from where I'm from, I didn't know nothing but Kentucky Fried Chicken. It's the most I'd ever heard of Kentucky from. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just what I knew. And so like to kind of hear some of the dudes that had come through Louisville and played at Louisville and stuff like that when I first got here was eye-opening. Even Muhammad Ali, I never knew Muhammad Ali was from Louisville. So there's a lot of history in Louisville and stuff like that a lot of people don't know. And there's a lot of good athletes in Louisville. I think the problem is that just and even when I was in college, I would kind of see some of the youth league stuff where like there were these kids that were talented at young ages. I think they were just getting missed from 7th grade to 10th grade, which is when the major development happens. And the kids that develop from that age group are the kids that turn around and ascend into getting those college scholarships. I think the difference between the kids at that age group from 7th grade was about the same from a place like Miami or Georgia. But I think from 7th grade to 10th grade is when the development happened. And that's when, like the boys turn into men.
Yep.
And so, I think that's the difference and stuff like that. And so just being here and being able to see that, even when I was in college at the youth level, like kind of gave me a different perspective. It all kind of shaped the vision that I was forming to start doing what I ended up eventually doing.
You've been here long enough. You just spoke about, training Louisville athletes. Give me a couple unique characteristics of Louisville athletes that you feel like positively separates them from competition. Just any like I said, unique trait or intangible that you feel like you've noticed working this long in this city that kids from here can wear as a badge of honor that you feel like is a plus for them?
Even going back to Muhammad Ali, I think Louisville's a fighter city. I think a lot of kids grow up with fighter hearts, and just got that in them where they just got that fight in them and stuff like that, and just that willingness to like just have some grit and really go compete. And I think that's unique from city to city and stuff like that. But there's a lot of kids that grow up in environments that like they got forced to go out and go get it.
Right.
And so like it's just all they know. And so like a lot of that just is raised, is nurtured and whatnot. And so I think one of the unique things that people don't really realize is just like like there are a crop of tough-minded people that come right from the city, and if applied in the right way, into some sports, into whatever, computer engineer, whatever it may be, they got the tenacity and the grit to like repetitively go after what they want because it's instilled in them.
Absolutely. No, I agree. I feel like once I got to college, it really opened my eyes to, you go, even, following the recruiting thing, of course, Cali, Texas, Georgia, Bama, a couple of these places, they're looked to have the dogs and, this or that nature. But, going to college and getting around people from these same areas and just watching how I went about work every day, watch how I competed, and, we get in team environments and competitive environments, and I didn't feel uncomfortable at all. If anything, I felt like I was primed and ready. I tell people my first conditioning test, like Stone Perkins. I was just at Ball State not too long ago. I'm talking to him. He was like, when you went back home for May, like, did you just go to Chris? Yes. You need to be going to Chris every day, because anyone who's in this gym will tell you like 2 to 3 weeks with Chris consistently. Like, fuck when your body hurts. Like, you got to come in here every day. We'll have you going ready back into camp or wherever team you like. Okay, what is it? What we doing? So my freshman year, obviously I'm working with you my whole senior year before I go into college. I get there. They already pissed me off early. Where you from? I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. Oh, okay. And they just kind of shrugged me off. You know what I'm saying? A lot of them was from Georgia. They didn't play 7-on-7 together. I ain't played no 7-on-7. That ain't real football to me. Anyways, I'm like, oh, so y'all think this shit's a game, huh? Y'all don't know I've been in that dungeon. This is on Ealer, where the garage is up, no AC. You know what I'm saying? And so We got 16 110s next morning, 6 a.m. Cool. So we start the 16 110s. See vets start coming out their shirts. Motherfuckers is in compression shorts. Vets is, trying to scare the youngins. Like, don't get scared now. Don't get scared. I'm in my head like, oh, I'm not. Like, let's get this shit going. We start. And so I'm used to, like, no breaks at all, no water. They separate us in 3 groups. It's like skill, mid-skill, bigs. So it's like skill, tweak, go. It's big things of water on both sides. I'm like, oh, this is it? Fuck it. No water. Whole 16 110s. Just to send a message like, yeah, that's what I'm on. Yeah, that's Louisville for you. So for sure, when you say just the chip, you know what I'm saying? Even with people I've come across, like I said, people I train in here, feed off everybody. Nate, you know what I'm saying? The list goes on. Jarris, we're going to talk about him. But let's talk about post-college, man. So you have a good college career, Notre Dame, finish at Louisville. Talk about just post-college and what led you to becoming, one of the most notable trainers in the U.S. now.
So really, I guess how it all started was, I was playing. I got hurt, went to New Orleans,
Yep.
Tore a knee up, rehabbed, and was, signed with the Tennessee Titans. I got a phone call that, who ended up being a good friend of mine, Jock Brents, passed away in a motorcycle accident, who was Jarris' father. Mm-hmm. At the time, I just started praying on, the situation, kind of felt for the family. He was somebody who was, pivotal in the city in terms of taking care of kids and kind of, we had a synergy at the heart, which is what I saw him do in the community and whatnot. Right. And I knew that at some point, in some form or fashion, I was going to end up doing something to some degree to kind of help, because that's always kind of what I was passionate about. And so I just kind of felt like I was putting on my heart to kind of be there for the kids and the family, and that kind of led me into kind of really kind of taking Jarris and his brother Justin and Beans and and stuff like that, and just really kind of trying to be a support system for them in that time of need. Jarris was super talented athlete, and really just kind of used that whole fuel. I can remember when they pulled the plug on his father, he walked up to me, the second they pulled the plug, he was like, yo, can I go to my game now? And so, I just felt that, you know what I'm saying? That's some shit I would have said at that age.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He just wanted to go play football. I ain't trying to sit here and look at everybody crying and shit like that. That shit is weird to me. I'm about to go out and honor this in a different way. And so, that really, touched me. And then, it led me into kind of, staying there to kind of be there for him. Jarris turned out to be, when the first initial rankings came out, he was the #1 player in the entire country. Got offered as a 7th grader. Was in ESPN magazine. And really heavily helped pave the way for, a lot of the stuff that came into fruition with the gym and stuff like that before there even was a gym. There was just a park with socks and shit and motherfucking paper plates and napkins and forks and shit like that as cones.
Yeah.
And so when you get to the fork, cut right. When you get to the damn, plastic motherfucking shoelace, cut left.
Plate jump.
It's just what it was for it. We was on the hill, on repeat over and over and over again. Yep. So it was just different, you know what I mean? But, it was what it was. We made the most of what we had. And even then, without all the resources and stuff like that, it was a grit that, was really carrying dudes through. And so got to high school, started playing well, started getting scholarships, and the next thing you know, had another crop of younger kids that kind of came behind that, and then you started stacking classes behind that, and then, it turned into what it is.
Absolutely. Definitely want to give a quick shout out, man, to Jarris Brents, man. Somebody who I can definitely say pushed me. My first introduction to Chris and Jarris, I guess you could say, was my first trainer. I was working with my middle school football coach, another mentor of mine. Shout out Chris Peters. And I remember we was about to start working out. This is my 8th grade year, maybe going into my freshman year of high school. He's like, yeah, they said it was some middle schooler up at Kentucky's camp locking up high schoolers. And they said he ran a 4.4. Basically, you ain't doing shit. So I'm like, what? Who? I ain't. Soon enough. This when I got introduced to Chris. They did a WHAS or a WLKY type of special where they're just covering them working out, da-da-da-da-da. But I'm giving a shout out to, Jarris, because like Chris said, he kind of set the tone for the whole city as far as work ethic, because there was, this is before content, any of that. But Chris and Jarris was pretty much putting everything out there that they was doing on a daily basis. I can remember one video Chris pulled up, it was you, Jarris, Wandale, Taj. It's y'all want to eat? let's get this shit in on the pavement real quick. Some hot-ass summer day, like, right before y'all walk into, like, McDonald's or something, motherfuckers out there doing curb push-ups, sit-ups, but it's like, you know, that saying where it's like, if you ain't working with somebody out there who is, like, that's what Jarris was always like that dark cloud over my head as far, and you know how demonstrative he is with the shit, like, definitely more out loud than me, you know what I'm saying? And so, me and Jarris ended up going to the same high school, so now it's in my face. But like I said, it's really pushed me to be like, okay, I know what it's like to be a bully now, like on the field I'm speaking on. I know what it's like to be a bully. I know what it's like to go take some shit. Like, I know what it's like to be aggressive about what it is you want in life. Because Jarris came in first day of high school, 8th grader. I'm in the front of the line. You're like, who is dude? Like, who is dude? 5'6", 5'7". Like, nah, this is what it is. And so I'm like, nah. But, you know, me and Jarris definitely formed a good relationship. Still talk to this day. And, I mean, he was the one that really got me in Chris's gym. You know, there's a couple people that was in Chris's gym that used to tell me, like, man, you got to come over here. But Jarris was like, man, fuck whoever you training with. You need to go with Chris. Like, I'm telling you, like, this is what's going to change the game for you. And so, you know, me and Chris eventually ended up connecting. But speaking on just like you said, the start of Aspirations, I would say, just as you said, Jarris was, you know, the biggest catalyst. Obviously, he pops it off, gets an offer in middle school. He's in ESPN magazine. Talk about the next wave of that and when you actually move into your first space. We spoke on earlier, Ealer Avenue, garage space. Definitely just, you know, if you're an old school nitty gritty type of guy, would have been a great place for you. Speak on the times in there, just kind of how you felt that catapulted your career. I mean, I can remember a multitude of signing day parties being held in there, you know, news stories being covered in there. So just talk about that experience.
Yeah, so even in Rondell's class, in Jarris's class, there was Rondell Moore, there was Taj Rice, there was Caden Smith, who went to Purdue, Taj went to Duke. There was Tyrese Gibson, I believe his last name was. He went to West Virginia. So there was about 9 kids in that class. AJ McDuffie, he ended up going to Marshall because he was a partial qualifier.
Yep.
AJ was super talented. Could have never went anywhere in the country, but just like, you know, the grades weren't where they needed to be.
Yeah.
But like, you know, there's just a bunch of dudes that kind of came through and stuff like that in that wave and in that class. And so that really kind of like, you know, propelled. That was that 2018 class, right? Stacking right behind that, you had Stephen Herron, you had Wandale Robinson. Stephen ended up going to Stanford. Wandale went to Nebraska. Wandale's an All-American. Stephen was an All-American. And so, like, there was just this trickle-down effect of, like, you know, All-Americans and stuff like that that started coming out here that started really, like, putting the state on a totally different level. And there were kids that were, like, you know, right here in Louisville, Kentucky that were doing it. Even today, this past year, there were 3 kids that played an All-American game, and, you know, Allen Evans and Garyon Hobbs and Jahai Brown. So those 3, like, still carrying on the torch. I expect there to be 3 more kids the following year. Yep. Kellen Hall, Drayden Reed, Man Robinson. And so, you know what I mean? Like, it's the expectation, it's the standard of like what it is at this point. And so, you know, no 8th grader who's got a shot to be next. And so I think what it is just the younger kids at that age being able to see, you know, like Wandale being able to see what Rondell did, right? You know, Easton Messer being able to see, who was the leading receiver in the country last year, getting ready to see what Rondell did and what Wandale did. Malachi Corley was now with the Browns, being able to see what all 3 of them did and stuff like that. I think, like, you know the workload, know it's possible, and just know through, like, you know, like staying the course, staying locked in, staying focused and whatnot, and, you know, trying to keep their head down and just, you know, keeping the main thing, and do it. But the biggest thing, you know, for me has always been the loyalty piece of it. Yep. You know what I mean? And so, like, for me, like, you know, this for me is bigger than ball. It's always been bigger than ball. Like, I do this from the heart and whatnot, and I do this, like, you know, for real relationships. I go with any of the dudes that I'm with to the grave. You know what I mean? And so, like, you know, when the loyalty is there, that's everything to me. It was always about just, like, really, like, creating, like, men, real men. Not enough men out here. A lot of pretenders. A lot of people, you know, pretending to be men that ain't really men. And so, like, trying to create real leaders in life and real leaders in men.
For sure. And you definitely walk the walk and talk the talk. You know, I can say not only are you trying to produce that, but you living it, you know, day in, day out. You're one of the most consistent men I've definitely come across. Just as far as through hell and high water, I know Chris will be on that Stairmaster at some point today. That's just one thing I know, you feel me? But because I want to keep talking about aspirations, but, you know, it could be a kid watching and this sounds real appealing. You know, he's hearing all these names of NFL guys who've got decorated college careers, you sound like a loyal guy, but we haven't talked about, the type of person that you have to be to consistently stick it out in this gym, what this gym actually consists of, and why it's able to produce the talent that it does. So can you just give a closer look on the people who might not know what Aspirations Gym consists of, or the mentality, and kind of just how you used your own upbringing? We spoke on New Haven, Connecticut, all your own life experiences, and how you've used that to bleed on every guy that comes through this gym, because I can speak from experience. Which camera are we on, D-Rob? This one. Shit is not a game in here at all. So if you don't really love this shit, it ain't for you. But yeah, I'm gonna let you speak on this, man. Go ahead and just Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, it just all boils down to the consistency of it.
Yeah.
Like, some people just got the nuts to do that shit, and some people don't. There's a whole lot of talented dudes out there that can run and jump and sing and dance and do all kind of bullshit, for real. At the end of the day, though, like, somebody got the nuts to keep showing up and shit like that when the shit ain't comfortable, when you really don't want to show up. Somebody can do that shit with a smile on their face.
For sure.
So, like, people say tough times, like, don't last and shit. Like, yes, the fuck they do. Tough times will last like a motherfucker, bro. Tough people just last longer than the tough times. So, like,
Amen.
The commonality of the whole thing is just tough-minded people who are dead set and convicted on what they do.
Yeah.
Like, they do the shit with a different level of passion. It's got to be some real burning level of passion behind the shit where people think there's something fucking wrong with you. If ain't nobody questioning why the fuck you're doing what you're doing, the way you're doing and stuff like that, then you're just too normal. And I don't like normal motherfuckers. I don't like, that's just status quo, and the road is filled with a bunch of good people who do normal shit, and good for you. Like, I just ain't never been on that. So, like, respectfully, like, y'all live on y'all side of the road, and I want to be on the side of the road with the people who are out, like, trying to do some different shit.
Right.
And so it just takes a different set of mentality, a different set of mindset, a different set of mental makeup, mental fortitude, because you're going to have days where, there's holes in these walls and shit, for real. Like, those are real bodies, like, you know what I mean? I done seen some people, like, not want to play no more.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people not want to play no more.
Yeah.
It's made a lot of careers, ended a lot of careers. And there ain't no pretending about that and stuff like that. And so, you know what it is in here. There's a lot of people to this day that don't want to come in here because they're scared. It is what it is. You probably should be. It's probably not for you. And it's fine, like, to each his own and shit. This is probably safer somewhere else.
Yeah.
But, in here, it's just what it is.
Yeah.
So, like, I ain't apologizing for it, you know what I mean? And, when I started this place, it wasn't for everybody.
Right.
Like, I want dudes that want to be the best version of themselves, and it has nothing to do with talent. It's everything to do with, like,
For sure.
your mindset, your mentality, and who you really are to your core.
Yeah, because it's
a lot of trainers would be a lot easier, like just different type of men. I can't speak to that. I can only, vouch for what goes on in here.
So you said it's guys who they probably didn't even go to college, but have the respect in this gym because of, like you said, their approach every day. They're consistent. They ain't skipping reps. They're gonna be here, not ducking no one-on-one. It's guys like that every year that come through in the off season that just coming here to get better, show face, and stay in good shape. And like I said, those people get the same respect as an NFL guy or a D1 guy. And so, but before we move on from that, I do want to tell a quick story. Easton Messer, he spoke on, leading receiver in college football. Easton, like, to his teammates at FAU, he might be killing y'all, and I don't think y'all know what this man really went through to get to this, dog. Like, I remember walking in the gym one time, Easton's in high school, and I guess, especially with Chris playing receiver, like, he doesn't really have tolerance for receivers or DBs as far as just, like, stop fucking doing that shit. Like, I done told you. And so then when he gets to that point where it's like, all right, no more, cool. So, or if he sniffs that you fear something, I'm exposing to you this immediately. So I guess he sensed like, Easton, you don't want to get off the press? Because y'all remember like when them camps, when I was in high school at least, Nike Open and all that shit, I know that's still a thing, but people used to jump off the line and do all this. Chris couldn't stand that shit. So he's like, you know what? You don't get out the press? Cool. So I walk in the gym. Easton has on a big-ass mesh, old-school practice jersey. Chris got a line of young savages lined up. Half of them don't even play DB. They're just big bodies. And he's like, hey, anybody who can get him on the ground successfully, I got $20 for you. I'm like, oh. So I lay down. I'm rolling out, waiting for my warm-up. We ain't 10 minutes in. Easton's nose is bleeding. Like, I'm really feeling bad for dude. But going to what he's speaking on, Easton's getting drugged down, slung like, Holden, what the fuck is going on? But at the same time, Easton get up, walk back to the line, get right back to it. And definitely was back in the gym the next day like ain't shit happened. Never, any off season, Easton's gonna be there to this day. And so, certain guys, when they're super consistent, you always ask about I'm always asking Chris, what's Easton been on? If y'all get a chance after this video, go look up Easton Messer college stats and look up his game logs from this year. That's all I'm gonna say. Easton, keep doing your thing, man. I remember them dark days, man. You done got over the hill, dog. You know what I'm saying? But nah, man, we have this conversation, moving on. We have this conversation all the time as far as just we're listening to all these names, guys who have reached an amount of success in college or professionally. What separates the guys that do and the guys that don't, in your opinion, and from your experience of just being around so many types of athletes?
Same shit that separates the men in life that don't and the men in life that do. Some people just got guts. Their nuts hang a little different. Somebody just wants that shit a little bit more. Somebody's willing to go through the pain. Pain is a great separator in life. Shit is inevitable. One way or another, you're going to feel that shit. So some people can just tough their way through it. Some people tap when they feel it. So it's just creating, a mentality and a mindset of people that like they can endure pain and they thrive in it. Some people they like the pain sensation. It does something to them and stuff like that. When shit gets tough, they just find a way to escalate. And so, some men, when they're faced with a hardship or, money gets tight or whatever the case is, they just find a way to turn around and make it happen. Right. Some people tap, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. And, it's a lot of people tap that in life. And so, it is what it is. And so, to each his own. But, I think the commonality and all of that is, people that rise above their circumstance and people that are able to mentally, take themselves out of, just where they are currently and put their mind in a different place to get ultimately what they want.
And so, when you're meeting an athlete, first 10 minutes, because I look at you as pretty much a coach, so you're always in an evaluating sense. First 10 minutes, what are some cues or what are you looking for from a new athlete you don't know from a can of paint? You might have saw a highlight video, this, that, and the third, but as far as intangibles or things you're trying to pick up on just from a handshake, what are things you're looking for as an athlete who's aspiring to come in and join Aspirations?
Well, first of all, a handshake is one of my major pet peeves, and so I may do shake 100 times over and over in a day. That's super important to me because I think it just speaks to your confidence. Yeah, you know what I mean? You put some flimsy shit in my hand and stuff like that. I got a question. Yeah, how you were raised on that. And again, all men ain't created the same. All men ain't equal. So I know I can just speak to what I like to see these young men or young boys that are growing into being men, what that needs to look like for me, right. for my ideal version of how I'd like them to carry themselves. I guess just in terms of what I'm looking for though, attention to detail. I want to see a level of focus. I want to see a give a fuck factor there. You know what I mean? I can teach you whatever you want to know. If you care to know, I can teach you. Right. Everything under the sun, but you got to give a fuck to kind of even want to know. You got to care to want to know. And so if you don't care, none of this shit matters. You can spend 100 hours in a gym or anywhere else and shit like that trying to pour into you, but you gotta wanna be a sponge for the information. Mm-hmm. Some people just have a burning desire to be better because shit consumes them. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's all they think about. Sure. They go to sleep thinking about it, they wake up thinking about it. So they're constantly in a state of pursuit. It's like impulse control. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Just the ability to be able to not veer off to the left or the right and stuff like that and just stay locked in on a singular goal. Yeah. And then I'm looking for somebody, again, who's got some unwavering confidence about themselves, right? Which can obviously be instilled, but you like somebody to have a decent starting point with that. There's got to be a level of superiority complex there. Somebody got to think they're better. Right. And I'm the best motherfucker in this room right now. It is what it is for real. So you got to show me different. You got to have some of that in you. If not, you just can't take a back seat to somebody and be, a superior athlete. You know what I mean? You can't. I hope I win this rep right here. You know what I mean? More is one with mindset than anything else, and just your approach to stuff. Mm-hmm. And so those are a few of the things that I look for and stuff like that. Obviously, family background, structure, right? You know what I mean? Somebody who again is wired to have some consistency in their lives and stuff like that, and understand what consistency looks like. Which to be a pro, that's what it is. You got to be able to do that shit day in and day out. That's a real separator. So you can't go to work when you feel like it. Right. Fuck how you feel. That shit never mattered for like too many people put too much emphasis on feelings for like my feelings. It's been a long time since I ever even considered my feelings on some shit. It's just not the way the road works. And there's just so many people that are just misled by how the fuck they may feel in a moment. I feel tired. I feel this. I feel like like fuck what you talking about. Like that shit don't matter. So for me, like it's the people that can like separate those type of emotional feelings, right? That level of being wired emotionally through like being wired with some real logic, where it's like. It doesn't fucking matter. I gotta do what I gotta do. The job's not done.
So obviously being a trainer, you're dealing with an abundance of personalities. So in the event that you are dealing with an athlete who might be an opposite of you as far as maybe they are more in tap with their emotions and you're someone who's like you said, fuck it, put your shoes on, let's go. I definitely feel like I relate more to that attitude, but this being in your job description, how do you get the most out of athletes who might not view life in a lens that you view it and, like I said, still reach them and get peak performance out of them, even though you all differ in personalities?
It's a maturation process. I think you take somebody where they are. Everybody doesn't start at the same spot.
Right.
Ideally, you can grow them into being the best version of themselves, which is, an individual thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Everybody's wired differently.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, Carrington Valentine's the type where he's going to go out there and scope out everything somebody's doing pregame. Know everything that this dude wearing and what he ain't got on, and if his ankle hurts here, if his fingers taped up and stuff like that. He's just wired to do it all the time. Some people need like just kind of different, like kind of like breaks in between and stuff like that. And just need a little bit more balance. Again, to each his own. But when you're trying to like just really get the best version out of each individual, I think it's important that you just take them where they are. I think culture wins at the end of the day. I think like tough people raise tough people, right? Like I think bitch ass people raise bitch ass people, and it's just a trickle down effect.
Yep.
And so like at the end of the day, like like you are like like typically what you ended up being raised by or what you end up hanging around. And so like again, if you're looking for people that are going to be like of that what I would consider upper echelon of men, right? They can like like push through difficulties and not looking for excuses or not looking for the easy way out. I think you surround yourself around those kind of people. And so I think slowly but surely, even if you weren't like that to begin with, I think it starts to rub off on you. And I've seen a lot of kids that didn't start off like that, that have, just kind of grown into and matured, just like we all should do. Even at me at my age, I want to grow and mature, every day of my life to be a better version of myself, and shit just never stops.
Yep.
But when complacency doesn't set in, and when you don't think you arrived, you got a chance to keep, accomplishing something. But like as soon as you think you made it, you think, I'm fast or I'm strong or I'm good enough, that's when it's over. So you always got to kind of be pushing the envelope.
Constant improve. You brought up a name. I was about to dive into some specific names that have come through this gym and let you dive in on kind of what separated them or, things you want to speak on regarding them. Let's start with young alien, man. Carrington Valentine, Juice Man, Green Bay Packers, cornerback, number 24. He going into year 4?
Yep.
Going into year 4 here with the Green Bay Packers. Drafted in the 7th round, originally from Cincinnati, Ohio. Played his collegiate career at the University of Kentucky. Someone I've had the pleasure of working alongside, knowing since he was probably a sophomore, junior year in high school, and to this day. But someone that you definitely have a closer relationship with, training him pretty much every day. I know Carrington is on the phone with you game day for majority of the day. So just speak on you all's relationship, where Carrington started, and kind of how he got to where he is now.
I guess when I first met Carrington, he was Carrington's originally out of Cincinnati, so he was at Moeller High School. His mom reached out. He played phone tag. She'd tell you I didn't respond to her email for a while. She's right. My bad. I missed. I still owe on that one right there. But she reached out and eventually he came down. He thought he was a receiver.
Shout out to Mom for being persistent.
No doubt, for sure. Mom is the glue behind that one for sure, and so she's the mastermind behind it all. All love too, Jerry Pops and whatnot. So, but Mom is definitely the one.
Yeah.
But Carrington came all the way from Cincinnati, and so like first of all, he's driving down from Cincinnati a couple times a week.
Hey, high school kids, are we listening to this? Carrington Valentine, NFL corner. I can vouch. When he was in high school, was driving from Cincinnati, Ohio to Louisville just to train This is after, school day, whatever they had to do for practice. For those of you who don't know, that's probably about a 2-hour drive, at least 3 to 4 times a week. And this is early in high school. By the time he got older, it was pretty much every day. And even when he got to the league, he was still, I ain't gonna say where he was living in the offseason. I ain't gonna do you like that, Carrington. But he was around. He still had to make a drive to Louisville. And so, man, that's something I always admired about Carrington, man. Like, to see a kid younger than me that hungry behind this shit, like, he's driving 2 hours every day. Just like I said, was admirable. But yeah, go ahead. Driving 2 hours from Cincinnati, consistently in high school.
So again, that give a fuck factor,
Yep.
right, was there to the utmost, and the support system was top notch. You know what I mean? Mom was gonna make sure he got there. He was fed. He was ready to go. He was attentive. You get in that car and you ride an hour and 45 minutes, like you all ears.
Yeah.
Like you want to hear every piece of information.
Yeah.
He was a sponge. But the biggest thing I noticed about him when he thought he was a receiver was just how competitive he was. Carrington's one of the best competitors I've ever been around.
For sure.
And he's smart. Like a extremely smart, not football player, but human being.
Yeah.
So he scores off the charts in those categories in competitiveness and just intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you combine those two with a kid with like some talent and stuff like that, and like when he first switched, I know he definitely preferred receiver and wanted the ball, and he was good with the ball in his hands and stuff like that. I just thought it's just his natural competitive nature and just like his length and stuff like that.
Favorite DB.
So I took some convincing with Mom, told her to trust my judgment on it. She's a tough one to sell on, and she listened, she rolled me on it, so it all worked out. I guess we'll never know how it would have worked out the other way, but it would have worked out this way.
Yeah.
But Carrington, in my opinion, easily one of the top corners in the NFL. One of the best cover corners for sure. Has an opportunity to go, have a big season this year, and contract year for him. And so, as always, he's gonna be out until at his best and stuff like that. If you know anything about Carrington, kill him to win.
Mm-hmm.
He's just that type of dude and stuff like that. And so, if there's anything that I could rub off or blend on anyone, that Carrington's got him is just his sheer desire to compete at the highest level. He don't do it for the clout. He ain't doing it for the clicks. He's not doing it for the money, for the fame. He just wants to be better than you.
Yeah.
Bottom line is he just wants to prove at the highest level amongst the dudes that I'm the best amongst the best, best in category.
Yeah.
And so that's just always been his mindset. He never just wanted to make it to the NFL. Seventh round in the draft pick was some bullshit. That's a whole nother subject. But Carrington was way undervalued in the draft. Went out and started as a rookie at Green Bay, and just had a really good career to this point. And his best days are still ahead of him. He's young, got into the league 3 and out out of Kentucky, and
Yep.
he's going to be somebody that, like I said, puts the league on notice in years to come and continue doing that while making his mark.
I agree. Like you said, he's still young. And just speaking more on Carrington, another dude, kind of like when we were speaking on Jarris, is just, he just bleeds on you with his competitiveness. Like we said, it's different personalities in the gym. I'm definitely a competitor, but I'm more like silent assassin. Like, I'm more scope scene, act accordingly. Carrington scope scene, let you know what he's seeing on the scene as loud as possible, and then act accordingly, and act the ass at that, you know what I'm saying? And so, there'll be days we'll be in here working out, and Chris got us doing starts or something, and Carrington will get off to a hot start, and he'll be like, can't nobody in here fucking beat me. And me and Carrington have a pretty good relationship. As far as if we doing releases, sometimes Chris will sit Carrington on a dude that he feel like, he needs some more edge. You know what I'm saying? Shit's too lackadaisical. So he'll sit Carrington on him. How he's talking about holes in the walls and literally though. I've seen Carrington really, like I said.
On that note, I want to echo on that. Graydon Reed, 2028 defensive back.
See, I wasn't going to say that.
One of the top corners in the country in his class, for sure. Yeah. Got an opportunity to do some special things in his career. I can remember when I was trying to get him to turn that corner, and I sat Carrington on him one time, and Carrington had his ass glued to that damn mat for probably 15 minutes straight for real. Gigi, we call him Graydon's eyes was watering and shit like that, and that was really a defining, turning moment in his life. And I think a couple of years from now we'll be able to look back at that right there and say that was a moment when he really kind of found himself and his nuts started to drop. So
for sure.
Carrington got away biting your motherfucking ass and shit like that, and forcing you to really level yourself up. So
because it shows you as a young kid, the beauty of it is I got access to an NFL player, but okay, this is what this shit like. This is what it really embodies right here. Like being ready to go at the drop of a dime and being ready to show any and everybody like, yeah, you won't make it to this level. This what you need to. You got to be able to match this energy. You know, I think that's the best way you can show a young kid that, you know, because I feel like, you know, some young kids just see the highlights, pregame pictures and shit. Motherfucker got a Louis V bag, and now it's, oh, you know, that's what the NFL. Nah. So it's good, and, you know, I think that's why the culture's so good here, because you got older dudes coming back, giving back to the younger dudes. Like I said, being accessible, being there, and showing them the skill gap honestly isn't, you know, that far as like, you know, you got high school kids who lift more than plenty college athletes, professional athletes right now, but it's more so the approach to the game, the mentality, and like you said, the consistency and wherewithal to approach each and every workout, each and every day with the same attitude, same intensity, same competitiveness. And so leading to someone else I want to speak on, just signed a big deal in Tennessee, Wan'Dale Robinson, man. Not originally from the city of Louisville, but spent a lot of time in Aspirations, especially in his high school years. Training with you, went down the street to the University of Kentucky. Started off in Nebraska, ended up in Kentucky. But can you talk about kind of what has separated him at a young age and what's continued to separate him? Obviously, he's killing it in the league. Seems to really be a mismatch problem for everybody in the slot. And, you know, I just feel like he's somebody who's going to go get his numbers week in, week out, regardless of the situation. You know, I'm not going to speak on situations he's been in, but I feel like he's been in less than ideal situations than other receivers in his position. So just speak on kind of what separated Wan'Dale, what you saw from him early, and kind of what has led to his professional success.
Kind of similar to Carrington in a lot of ways, and the similar traits you'll see with all of those dudes. Again, competitor, wanted to compete amongst the best. He was driving 45 minutes a day down from Frankfurt because he's not from Louisville. Dad blessed him coming down and stuff like that. Shout out to Dale, Guru Fitness. Wandale was the man, like where he was from, and just playing in that area. I think he probably went for 35 touchdowns as a sophomore. Could have had a big head and said, you know, I don't need to come in and compete with anybody else. I'm already, you know, I'm stamped. You know, I'm this, I'm that. But just wanted to get better. And he was really more kind of like, at that point in time, more of a natural running back, just get the ball in his hands, just a dynamic playmaker. Yeah. We were able to do a lot of work on just like his route running and his releases and like teaching him how to kind of play in the slot and win on option. We'd run option route for an hour, literally an hour a day, just working footwork and just working on just finding spaces and stuff like that and learning how to win and separating small windows and stuff like that, winning trail, winning outside leverage, winning inside leverage, winning somebody trying to sit, winning somebody over the top, winning somebody trying to catch you, like not letting people reroute you and stuff like that, like getting people off their spot. Right. Just all the nuances and stuff like that. And, you know, he went to Nebraska, and then all of a sudden he's dotting the damn I. First game of the year, he's running football. And so that certainly wasn't the plan. Devastating for me, devastating for his career. Eventually, you know, we were able to kind of get him out of there and stuff like that, and he went out to UK. Liam Cohn was the OC. Vince Morrow was huge in kind of bringing him back to the University of Kentucky. It's just kind of under those two, leadership and guidance and stuff like that, Wandale was able to go on and have one of the best careers in Kentucky football history his year there, and he played 1 year there and got drafted in the second round to the Giants. And so perseverance. Wandale had an ACL injury in New York that he battled back through after not having what would have been in his eyes and his standard a great rookie year. Was able to come back from that and have a huge third year and a huge fourth year, and now just got a big payday in Tennessee and stuff like that, and it's just well deserved. He's a super professional, button up dude, like just good in the community with the kids and stuff like that. Somebody that had the heart to kind of like really work and go really work for it. Undersized guy that felt like a giant, plays like a giant, and he's just a good football player. In high school, I watched Wandale take the ball from people on defense in big games, just clutch. He was a baseball player, just a natural athlete and stuff like that, and just good person like all the way around through and through.
Shout out to Wandale, man. As he stated, a big contract in Tennessee. Hope all is well out there. Hope you continue to do what you've been doing, tearing it up on Sundays. Staying in the receiver realm, another guy who came through Aspirations, who still consistently comes through Aspirations, Malachi Corley. Had a very decorated career in Western Kentucky. Another guy who isn't necessarily from the city of Louisville, but definitely from the state of Kentucky. Found his way to Aspirations Gym. Talk about his journey. I would say he, out of all the receivers that have been through this gym, he's probably had the most peaks and valleys, even starting in college. I remember talking to him. He said he was scout team running back or something to start off at Western Kentucky. So can you talk about just his journey and how he's got to the point where he's at now with the Cleveland Browns?
So Malachi was out of Campbellsville. Campbellsville was about an hour away, and so same kind of situation. Malachi and his brother Mike and his mom made the drive all the way up here. Shout out to Micah, his brother, business manager, who's huge in Malachi's process still to this day and stuff like that. As a day in, day out, do it all manager. For those who are looking to go that journey, you got to get a support system of people that can help you along that way and stuff like that. You want to concentrate on ball, but you want to have some people or somebody at least in your corner that you can really help handle like some of the off the field stuff for you, so that it takes the pressure off you, and you can really just concentrate on your job, which is at that point is to be a professional football player. Malachi, super talented, Yak King at Western Kentucky, super dynamic with the ball in his hands. Like comparable to, I guess, what people would say, Debo and whatnot. To me, like Malachi had more juice than Debo. I'm hoping, Cleveland continues to plan and what kind of turned into fruition this year, and they continue to give him the ball so he can do his thing and show the league and put the real league on notice and stuff like that, and show what he really can do and what kind of, overall talent he really is. Because Malachi can really do it all, from winning in the slide to, like blocking defensive ends. You watch him out there, there's not a whole lot of receivers that are putting their face in. He's 400-pound bencher, weight room warrior type of dude. And so, I think for him, again, just the maturation process and the peaks and valleys and stuff like that. Some bad habits that he had that kind of had to have some growing pains and kind of learn from. But the thing about Malachi is he's always super accountable, the utmost humility and stuff like that, and he had ownership of everything he's done. And so, none of us are perfect people and stuff like that. We all got flaws. It just comes down to looking ourselves in the mirrors and really addressing those things. And that's the thing I'm the most proud of with Malachi, was he really anytime he's got a weakness or a chink in his armor, he's gonna face it head on. For sure. And so he's dealt with the obstacles and stuff like that, and he's really truly been tested. I've seen a lot of people that are broke in those kind of situations, like just not having the success that they wanted to. But I watched him get back to his foundation and really be true to kind of who he is and keep his faith. Something that his mom helped instill in him and stuff like that, and she did a great job raising him. And I think he's gonna have a lot of success moving forward in Cleveland.
No, for sure. I mean, Malachi is somebody I got particularly close with during his pre-draft process. I mean, we were going to that indoor in Indiana, training here, watching him go through his stuff. Obviously, it was unfortunate. He had the COVID incident. He wasn't able to perform. But just like you said, very humble dude, very vulnerable dude. He'll be the first one to tell you about his mishaps or something that he feels like he needs to improve on, or something that he might not be comfortable with within his game. But with him being in Cleveland, I kind of saw the flip switch, and I think that's two-sided. Obviously, as you stated, I feel like Cleveland was playing him more to his strengths, giving him the ball in abundance of ways. It wasn't just a matter of go run this route and you get open. And I think that's what a lot of rookie receivers, if you're not getting first-round money, a lot of rookie receivers struggle with just college. If you make it to the NFL as a receiver, chances are whatever college you went to, they're trying to get you the ball in whatever way physically possible. Screens, jets, reverses, fade, slant. It's wide open. You get to the league, especially if you're on a team with a guy or a guy who's pretty much had sustained success there. It's more so we need you on special teams. Go catch this punter, this kick, and go run these routes on third down, money down, or we'll get you in when we can. But obviously, with someone who carries the ball, not speaking on myself, but it's like basketball. If I can't get no shots up, it's hard for me to catch a rhythm or really form any confidence. It's a snowball effect. And so I feel like in Cleveland, they were giving him the ball in any way possible. I'm seeing him getting jets from under center, screens, like I said, passes, whatever the case may be. But I'm slowly seeing that confidence and that guy that we're used to seeing running people over, breaking tackles, making it happen after the catch. I'm seeing it. And so, like you spoke on, I hope that snowballs into this year. This is year 3 for Malachi?
Yeah, this is year 3.
Okay, so, I hope that snowballs, man. Switching over, man, to the bad guys now. Nate Hobbs, very close friend of mine, someone I've known since we were very young, 15, 16 years old, went to rival schools. Was, I would say, overlooked in the draft. We've been around Nate for an abundance of years now. We know the athlete, the football player he is. Drafted, Nate went 5th round?
Yeah, 5th round.
5th round. So you were always an advocate. I feel like you, especially during that COVID stint, when we were working, you were able to really see his talent for what it was, and you voiced it to me on numerous occasions that you felt like he had what it take. What is it that you saw in Nate early that you felt like would translate well into the NFL?
Again, first of all, it's a trait. It's a competitor. Nate's an outlier, like, just all the way around, just in terms of like just size and strength and just natural power. But the competitiveness, the headstrongness, just how headstrong Nate is. Nate could be like dead out of shape and jump in a workout with dudes that have been working out for 3 months, and the only dude I know that could really like survive it. You know what I mean? He's just gonna get through it one way or another. He's gonna find a way to get through it. He ain't got no tap in him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Some people just don't have no tap in them and stuff like that. And a lot of that got to go back to his upbringing, how he was raised and stuff like that. Just that, what I speak on, a lot of the kids that come from Louisville just get that fighter's heart in them, just that grit, that determination and stuff. And so Nate's the type of dude that, like, no matter what he set his mind to, he'd be successful because he just got it. He's just not going to stop. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So, like, it's been, like just watching Nate's maturation in his NFL career to go from being 5th round guy to getting a big contract in Green Bay. He's now with the 49ers. I think that's going to be a better fit for him in a place that he can go and, like really propel himself to go on and like, really like emerge like he wants to do, like, like he's been called to do.
Right.
But just in general too, like just to know Nate and stuff, he's just a real genuine dude. Like, you know what I mean? Nate ain't got no bullshit with him.
Facts.
You know what I mean? He can always say how he really feels.
Facts.
Like, he ain't anything says once, he's able to say it twice. A man's man for me. Yeah. Like, and again, that's what it's all about. Just somebody who, like, I would want around my son. Right. You know what I mean? I would want around, like, you know what I mean? Like, just the characteristics of a man. Like, just good father, great father. You know what I mean? Like, somebody who takes fatherhood serious. Somebody who, like, like is devoted to all the things he does. Like, just the different things in life that he's responsible for. Like, he takes that to heart. And so I expect nothing but greatness in Nate for the rest of his playing career and anything ever he sets his mind to do, because that's just who he is in life.
No, I definitely agree. I mean, you hit it on the head as far as just Nate's definitely one of the most genuine dudes I've come across. Just like I said, we hit it off at 15, 16, and the male-man rivalry. But I think from an early age we were able to kind of put that to the wayside because we realized, we were embarking on something bigger than male-man or even our hometown of, Louisville. We was both just 2 kids from the same city, same situation. That are blessed enough to be able to play Division I. Crazy enough, we played each other the first ever collegiate game. We ended up being teammates in Las Vegas. But just speaking on times I've been cut, times I've been going through stuff, he'll be one of the first people on my phone. Obviously he's got a lot going on. You never really expect people to reach out when at any point, just because people got real lives. I'm not taking nothing personal. It's just shit. You mid-season, you trying to produce. You starting. I know what that encompasses, but like you said, he takes serious what he takes serious, and that's God, his family, the people he cares about and loves, and football. And so I think, like I said, you hit it on the head as far as Nate. Moving on, man. Staying in the aspirations world, a couple more questions regarding that. I'm a 15-year-old right now. Have aspirations to play in D1. What is my routine? What does my life need to look like? What is it? What should if you had a camera on, their everyday get down, what should you be seeing for someone who says their aspirations are to be going D1, at the highest level? What should that look like?
Again, first and foremost, it starts with the consistency of it. Just developing that consistency of work. Like, it's not an optional thing. Like, like a lot of people think they have, it's the illusion of choice. A lot of people think they got choices in life, and more times than not, there really is no choice. You're gonna do the shit or you ain't gonna get it. Yeah. So again, it's just a trick that your mind plays on you to make you feel like you got a opportunity to pick or say no to this or yes to this, or I can go today but not tomorrow, or vice versa. And it's just, the reality is, the work's the work. You know what I mean? And sometimes the work ain't enough, and then you gotta go in overtime. Yep. And it's just what comes along with this shit. Either you got to do that or you ain't.
Yep.
So the biggest thing as a 15-year you can do is really start developing that mentality where you realize I got to work every day. There ain't no way around it.
Yep.
And that don't mean I can't have a life or I can't, have a little girl or do whatever I'm gonna do, like, go chill, video game, whatever you're gonna do, right? But like, I gotta keep the main thing the main thing.
Yep.
I gotta prioritize what's really truly important to me. If not, you're just talking.
Yep.
And so I think it's got to start at that age and stuff like that, and then that mindset and that mentality trickles into the strength components, the technique components, the film components. If you can learn how to be consistent, and it's important to you at that point, the buy-in factor is there then. And once the buy-in factor is in, then you can build upon that, and then now you can start building those baseline standards in other areas.
Right. And so, okay, I've bought in. I've bought into pretty much the lifestyle that it's going to take to reach these goals. I get Division I. You spoke earlier, people getting comfortable, fat and happy, feeling as though they arrived. You said a quote to me a long time ago that's just always stuck with me, and I try to pass along to young dudes as far as, you see guys, stories in every neighborhood, every city, every state of a guy who had all the talent, all the measurables in the world, just didn't make it, was lazy, whatever the case may be. And I asked you about this, like, what's up with these guys? Like, what do you think the disconnect is? And, you basically broke it down to they understand that they could put in way less work than the next person and still have a fighting chance or, still be able to compete and make their routine plays as if nothing ever happened. But the thing that you said that really stuck with me is they don't want to make it a blowout. And I was like, because that's the honest truth. Like, some of these guys that I can think of off the top of my head where athletic freaks or, just have God-given ability, something that, other people don't have, but don't necessarily have the work ethic to match that. Like you said, you're trying to keep people in the race when in all reality you could be lapping motherfuckers. Like you could really be, you could have it your way. You know what I'm saying? What you be saying, this whole shit could be yours. But like you said, motherfuckers don't want to make it a blowout. And, they get comfortable in that space of knowing, okay, I don't got to do as much. And I can still go out here and make my routine plays, get my little 2 touchdowns, throw for 225. You could be getting 3.5, 4, throwing for 350, or having a pick and a PBU every other game. But that's a whole nother conversation. But like I said, you get to college, you understand the foundation. What changes from college as far as my focus? Obviously, my habits don't change, but what do you feel like the shift is going from high school to college as far as making your dreams a reality from going from college to the NFL?
I think at that point you got to really start transitioning to being a professional.
Yep.
And what that looks like is, one, taking care of your body, the nutrition side of it. Ideally, you gain that in high school as well, but at 15, as long as you can develop some consistency, you got a shot at everything else.
Right.
The understanding of the importance of studying the playbook, how to study, how to watch film, how to really break down film at its highest level, how to turn around and really figure out what tendencies are.
Right.
How to get extra work, what's good extra work, what's too much extra work.
Yeah.
Because it's both. It goes both ways. You can't burn the candle on both ends and stuff like that. And so there's extremes, right? But it's I think it's moderation of everything, and it's just moderation of all the things that encompass football, which is not just how fast can I get or how strong can I get, how fast can I process? What's my weakness? Can you really identify your weakness? Can you sit in silence and really figure out what it is that makes you uncomfortable? Is it inside zone? Is it an up tight end? Is it this, is that? Right. You got to be able to be in that moment right there and go face that demon. You know what I mean? Because it's coming one way or another, like life. You know what I mean? Ain't no way around it. So have you prepared yourself when that opportunity meets? In a quiet moment, have you sat and really dealt with yourself where it's I'm not comfortable playing outside leverage. I'm not comfortable in 3rd and 3. Or I know I got some anxiety. I know I got some bitch in me. Yeah. And the truth is, everybody got some bitch in them. Some people just address it. You know what I mean? So you got to be able to face that and deal with yourself behind closed doors so you don't get exposed in public.
Yep.
And so I think again that's one of the difference in the men and the dudes are trying to be the men.
They asked Kobe Bryant about this, his whole take on trainers, and he said exactly what you said. I'm cool with trainers. It's just you have to be honest with your trainer as far as exactly what you said. What makes you uncomfortable? If I come in here and I say I want to get bigger, stronger, faster, so does everybody fucking else. That's not, pick one. I want to get faster. The answer is I don't feel comfortable in press. You know what I'm saying? I don't feel comfortable going this way for long distance, for a long period of time. And so if I tell Chris that, now we can focus on cutoff angles, pretty much technique to avoid either putting you in. We're gonna try to get you faster, but me knowing this, let's combat this with just winning with technique. You know what I'm saying? I think that's right up your alley. But moving on, let's talk about me and you, the origin. I'm gonna let you start, but just obviously, we met around my junior year of high school. I remember you reached out to me. I sent you my final tape. Obviously, you had been to plenty games, but I sent you my huddle. You sent me a long-ass, detailed-ass paragraph, but me loving football and just, being a football guy through and through, I could appreciate that, for one, because, you took the time to watch it, but for two, when I'm reading it, fully in agreement with everything you were saying as far as the pros and the cons, or if you was looking at it through a college coach's lens, the way you would have evaluated it. And, it definitely gave me something to look forward to as far as going into my senior year of high school. And, after I got that surgery my senior year of high school and got cleared, I was with Aspirations ever since. So can you just talk about where our journey started and just touch on that?
Well, I guess that was our first real introduction, but my first real introduction to you was observation. I show up, like you said, with Jairus at Manual. He was getting ready to go out there, and I'm just surveying the team and who's who and stuff like that, and you stuck out to me like in a group of green crayons like you was red, and so like I could just see your intent behind everything, just how you warmed up, how you were doing the warm-up drills, where you were in drills, like your level of focus, your level of attention to detail, weren't fucking around with your shoes and cleats and all that kind of stuff, like how early you got out to practice and stuff like that. And I can remember showing Jairus, I was like, that dude right there, like he's gonna be good. Like here's like. He ain't faster than me. Jairus just being a competitor he is and stuff like that. Like Jairus so tough as just go. And I'm like, it's bigger than his discipline. That dude's discipline is a million times higher than yours. Like, you know what I mean? Like he's wired to repetitively do the small things right, correctly, over and over and over. And so from there, I got to watch you go compete that year, to win a spot and stuff like that, and ended up starting your sophomore year. And just was impressed with just how mature you played as a sophomore. You're a sophomore to play like a senior, from a maturity standpoint. Obviously, you were still growing and still developing in your game, but some dudes are just guys, and it just is what it is. You just had real, just guy presence about yourself, and just in terms of just how you carried yourself and how you went about your business. And again, like the seriousness of what it is, it reeked on you. It reeked that, you didn't have to tell me that it was important to you. I could see it in everything you did, and so I think that's a real underlying factor in there. It's just like the intention and the intent that some people have behind what they do, and just where that comes from, and the real drive. It's like mom and dad taking me here and pushing that. Like you can tell, what I'm saying. This is really what I want. I'm dead serious about this right here.
Facts.
You can tell too, and so I saw that in you early on. About breaking your tape down and stuff like that. I had watched, tape before, but at that point it was like, all right, like what I mean, like. I got a good sample size of this dude. I don't peep mom at the games. I know there's support there and stuff like that. So. Again, I'm connecting all the dots because, at that point, I got a pretty good idea even then of like what it really took for somebody to be successful and stuff like that. And I can see that you just had all the makings of that in you and stuff like that, and you're the right type of person, which again never has anything to do with the talent. You know what I'm saying? But just the right type of person, had the right type of mindset, had the right type of mentality that was what Aspirations was really about and stuff like that. And so. I can remember walking up on you one day. I think you got some Jordans on from school and stuff like that. I was like, yo, let's go get some work right now. And just really kind of wanted to see if you go out there and do it. Yeah, just wanted to see.
Jeans and Jordans, y'all. It caught me out of school. Anybody who really worked out with Chris, it's like Mike Epps did a special. It's like, when that old lady in the hood catch you to run to the store, you can't make eye contact with Chris. You make eye contact with Chris. What you finna do? Shit. But like I said, Chris, he's always in evaluation. So when he's like, what you finna do? Me saying, I'm about to, I know he's looking at that like, he don't really want this shit. I ain't finna do nothing. What's up? Hop in the car. I'm like, man, I'm out there fully kick sliding, backpedaling, True Religion jeans, heavy ass Jordan 5s. But hey, gotta pay to play, man. Gotta pay to play. But just being in the gym all these years, like Chris said, it was always a level of seriousness about ball for me, always. But, you want to try to connect with like-minded people. And I always felt like Chris was verbalizing shit I already felt innately. Like, we talked about a lot, like Carrington, he's very vocal about, everything. Jarris was the same way, like they'll let you know what it is. Nate a little bit too. But me, I've more so been one to like, I ain't gonna do too much talking, but when we play, anything I've ever felt like I wanted to voice or emotions that I'm really dealing with, this is gonna be my canvas to pretty much let that out. And I felt like being around Chris only furthered my mentality as far as just, I tell him this story all the time, but it's a game. One of the best games of my college career. We're playing Army, physical game. If you know anything about Army, it's just put your chin strap on. It's going to be one of those. So it came down to the fourth quarter. They drove all the way down. We pretty much needed a game-winning stop. Fourth down, it's pretty much like a movie type of scenario, like games on the line. And you can see it on the film, like I spit. But I'm thinking in my head, like, I done been more tired than this at Chris's. Like, I promise. Like, one play lock in, we off the field. And it's like God just presented the opportunity with me, man. It was me, him, space and opportunity. But like I said, it's just dog-ass days and aspirations. Like, if you never push your body to go past that comfort zone, which in here, you're going to go past your comfort zone pretty much every day. So then that becomes your comfort zone. And so it wasn't unfamiliar territory for me in that game. It was just more so getting thirsty to end the shit. When I knew I had the opportunity to be the one to send their ass home, it's pretty much foaming at the mouth. But a couple quick hitters before we get out of here, man. If you had to make a Mount Rushmore of Aspirations athletes, 4 spots, no order, no criteria, just whoever you feel like comes to mind. Damn sure ain't got to put me on here because I'm talking to you right now. But just four people on the Mount Rushmore of Aspirations athletes.
It's tough, man. The story's still not written for me. You know what I mean?
I think you got young dudes.
I think I got some young dudes coming up that's going to challenge. So, you know what I mean? They better challenge or else I'm fucking up, bro. I might have to retire if they don't challenge. So
with the pool that you can use, excluding the high school kids.
Excluding the high school kids. What are we talking? Are we talking talent? Are we talking about success? Are we talking about NFL success? Like, what are we talking?
I would say the athletes that you felt embodied, carried what you taught them from this gym and had a level of success in whatever realm you feel like is appropriate, to meet the Final Four. But basically, people who you feel like embody everything that you're trying to teach in this gym.
It's tough. A lot of popular opinions would go to those on the wall. You know what I mean? I have a hard time leaving somebody like a Jarris Brentoff, to be honest with you, Fred. So he stands 10 toes down, and let's call it Jarris in the Feds right now.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Tough times.
Yep.
I haven't seen someone not so much tough times and, tap about it here. Mm-hmm. So, you know what I mean? Like, mental health, first and foremost, is a real thing. And so, like, again, one of the things that I pride this place on developing on people is just a mindset to be able to make it through tough times in life. Mm. And so, like, when I look at Jarris in this situation, obviously his career didn't go the way. I'm sure he would have liked it too, and damn sure not the way I would have liked it too. I just look at, like, the man he is and stuff like that. And Jarris got all the leadership qualities about himself and the tough-mindedness and stuff like that, like, regardless of what his today's circumstance may be, he gonna be all right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
I agree.
just talking, dealing with him every day, there's a lot of things that, like, I'm super proud of still, despite, like, where he is today. And I don't shy away from the fact that everybody in here hasn't gone to college and played at the highest level, made it to the NFL. Like,
Yep.
some people in here that are in the grave.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And so that's just kind of what comes along with it. I hope we learn from both sides of it. I think we should be able to learn from both sides of it, the triumphs and the failures.
Absolutely.
But like Jarris is somebody that I think embodies it heavy. Nate for sure, obviously, with his grit and determination, just like him overcoming, tough times and stuff like that. Nate lost his father at a young age and stuff like that, and real stand or fall moment.
Yep.
Nate chose to stand.
Yep.
Unbiasedly, if I had to pick a model of consistency, which is what the whole thing is built upon, that's my pillar principle of this whole thing. I got to go with you. You've always been a model of consistency, in my opinion, of everybody that's ever come out of this gym. Just somebody who's just always done what they said they were going to do, always been where they were supposed to be, and just done it at an extremely, overwhelmingly consistent level. And that shit's tough.
For sure.
Like, people underestimate how hard it is to just really, truly be consistent at something and really do some shit on a day in, day out, regardless of your feelings or regardless of, how you slept the night before or what might have happened to you and stuff like that. Super productive career at Ball State. One of the best players ever in MAC history.
Yeah.
Turn around and, still never got the respect you deserve. Fighting through the NFL, like, go on to make a practice squad, like, in a situation where odds are stacked up against you.
Sure.
Cut from here, cut from there. Having to deal with real life circumstances, still standing tall, still showing up. All those things are the things that make a man at the end of the day. And so, like, regardless of, like, how the football career turns out, that's the thing that's always the most important to me. So it's not about just a jersey being on the wall. So, there's a lot of dudes that have played in the NFL and stuff like that who are, athletes and they made and stuff like that. But, like, what's the real legacy behind who you were as a person, as a human being?
Right.
So, I'd have to put you on.
Appreciate that.
And then, again, I have to go. I think Malachi Corley probably ends up on that spot for me. Malachi is just somebody who's just like, all the kids love Malachi.
For
Like, he pours heavy into the kids and stuff like that. He's just a super personable dude and stuff like that that's willing to share his shortcomings and just can identify with everybody. So for me, like, like Malachi, like, maybe hasn't had a career from a football standpoint that some people have, but like when I just watch how relatable he is to the kids and stuff like that, Malachi is just a real, like, just down to earth, like a dude you can really touch. That ain't too good for nobody. Came from a small town, never acted big time, never act like he's better than anybody and stuff like that. And it's just like, real humble beginnings. Yeah. And really just kind of stuck to the script on that. And so like, I just love the way he gets down and just how he kind of like is just willing to always kind of just share his testimonials or hear what else somebody else may go on. Like, he's one of the people who like genuinely really cares about everybody's well-being. And so like, again, like, that's important to me, and that's what this place is all about for me. Each one, like, brings the next person along. I think Malachi's benefited from some of the older dudes. I think the younger kids in the gym, like a Jahai Brown, is looking to follow in his footsteps. Issa Messer, who'll be playing in the NFL after this year, are able to learn from Malachi and stuff like that. And so, like, I think he's really been a pillar to this. So, like, I'd have to add him in as my fourth person.
So, man, y'all heard it here first. Your boy made the aspirations. Nah, I'm just kidding, man. I don't want to refer to people as projects, but you get what I'm saying. You come in with people that have different starting points in their athletic journey. Who is an athlete that you would say you're most proud of as far as where you started? And I'm not asking you to take credit, but just being able to have a hand in their development as an athlete and where they ended up. Who comes to mind as someone who did a complete 180 as far as where we started and where we ended up?
I got to roll with Keontae Goodwin. That's a name in here that doesn't, like, get talked about a whole lot besides people who, like, really know. If you know. But Keontae, like, the kid that, as a middle school kid, like, then it wasn't even good enough to play on his middle school team. Yeah. Kept showing up, you know what I mean? Unfortunately, Keontae's mom passed away of cancer. And, she was a major pillar in his life, went behind the cells and stuff like that. But Keontae went from being a 500-pound kid to a kid that, went on to be the number one tackle in the country. Yeah. Offers from every school in the country, had an opportunity to be a top 10 pick. Again, mental health's a real thing. And so he struggled with a lot of issues that he'd been through in life. If you knew more of his story, you'd understand, like, how much he really truly overcome to even be in the position he was in. And so, for him, like, just looking at him, like, one, just beating the odds to even live another day. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, even forget even playing football, but just, like, live another day, let alone what he had watched him do, like, academically. Keontae had a 1.2 GPA. And, he moved in the house with me when his junior year of high school. He got 3.8 for the next 2 years. And I just watched him just do a complete 360 in life and just, like, really, like, save his own personal life. Where I was just always worried about him, like, just having a short life because of some of his health conditions and just some of the different things he was battling with in his journey. So I think from start to finish, if you're talking about a project, a real just reclamation type project, and again, like, you know, might not have been the ending that people thought you should have been with him, you know, going on to be a top NFL draft pick, which he had all the talent in the world to do that at the highest of high levels. Probably the most talented, most gifted person to ever come through here, through Aspirations, probably Keontae. But again, he's living, and I'm proud of that for him to be able to overcome that and just kind of dealing with some of the adversities that he had in his way to kind of could have stopped that.
For sure. No, for sure. I think that's a good answer, to be honest. I definitely saw the transformation. And like you said, watched him keep showing up, keep being consistent, and literally watched, you know, it go from one extreme to the other. You've been all over the country. I'm sure you've probably visited close to 65, 70, that might even be lowballing, FBS programs in the United States. Give me 3 of the best facilities or tours that you can recall as far as places you've been on this recruiting trail with, you know, kids that you've been on visits with and whatnot.
Best facilities, I'd have to go with Texas A&M. Alabama has a different feel to it. Anybody that's ever been to Alabama before, it's just a real rich tradition to it. You just feel like you're part of something historical.
Yeah.
And then I'd probably say Notre Dame. It gives you that same feel where it just feels different. Like, you know what I mean? Make you a little uncomfortable to touch the doors the same way. Like, you know, just feel like some real prestigious shit. But, you know, I'd be remiss if I didn't say with all of that, like, you know, it's a lot of places, like, buildings are just buildings.
Right.
Like, it's the men that step into the buildings that make the places and stuff like that. And so, like, again, like, the core set of group of people that you have in that building that are, like, you know, the staffs that are assembled that are hired to lead men, like, those are the difference makers and stuff like that. Everybody's got nice weight rooms and sauna and, you know, whatever treatment center and all of that kind of stuff. And they got enough to get it done.
Yeah.
But it's the leaders in the building and stuff like that that really, like, you know, take that shell of a building to a whole nother level.
Absolutely. I think, like you said, culture overrides all. You know, you can have all the glitz and glamour that you want, but if you ain't got people willing to move the needle and challenge, you know, you ain't gonna get nothing done. What can a university or an organization expect from an Aspirations athlete?
First of all, the toughest dude on your team, somebody who's been through everything, and so nothing more you're gonna get a dude that, like, you know, you're not gonna outwork anybody's come out of Aspirations.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm gonna hang my hat on that one right there, that the work ethic is gonna be the standard.
For sure.
Day one.
Yeah.
Whatever you think is tough, whoever you think is, you know, a hard worker, move over. Like, they're second. I think a mentality of a winner, somebody that's competitive, somebody's gonna look to come in and compete and go to play, not just content with just being there.
Yep.
Kids that are really motivated to, like, accomplish with a sense of urgency. I think the world lacks urgency. I think people move around, like, just hoping things come to them and don't press the issue enough to, like, go take what they want out here. And so I think the athletes that are in here are getting instilled with, like, you know, like, you gotta go get it, regardless of who you're lining up in front of. You know, regardless if, you know, Jahai Brown's lined up in front of Nate Hobbs or Carrington, I gotta go win. And I expect you to.
Yep.
I don't care if you're in high school.
Nope.
You know what I mean? Like, find a way to win. And so, like, what's your advantage here? You know what I mean? Whether it's, you know, like, Allen Evans or Gigi Reed covering, you know, like, Malachi Corley or Wandale Robinson, like, you know, figure it out, win with length, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, figure out what they're not good at and stuff like that. And so I think that mindset and that mentality is what you get day one with a kid that walks in there and somebody who's going to be definitely physically ready to go play.
I agree 100%. As far as, you know, you've been doing this for a while now. I don't know how many years it is, but since I've been in high school, and that seems like a long time ago, what do you see as it's a two-part question. Why are you still training high school athletes and doing what you're doing? And then after that, what is the end goal for Aspirations? Or I guess better question, the end goal for Chris Vaughn.
You know, I guess at this stage I've had the opportunity to take a couple jobs at the college level, and, you know, like, kind of go in a different direction with my career.
Right.
I really like the grassroots of things. I like the flexibility of it too. I like the ability to be able to affect the outcome a little bit more. I think the kids that make it to college are pretty much at that point on their way. I deal with a lot of 50-50 kids here, and so, you know, I've been to more funerals than I care to have been to with kids that, tried to help along the way, kind of like, make a difference, and it's always trying to save those ones.
Yeah.
Like I said, I come from a place where, like, that's what I grew up around, and so, like, my passion is really for the kids that, like, can go in either direction.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's important to me that, like, I'm able to kind of fill in those gaps and try to help get them, like, if I can just keep them concentrated on doing something in sports and keep their mind focused on that as a platform that can later lead them into, having some success and just buying them time in life to kind of be the best versions of themselves.
Yeah.
And so I think from there, it's just really a passion type thing for me. Obviously, like I do this because I care to help. And obviously I've done enough and gained enough resources and stuff like that at this point where, like, it's easier now. Every class it gets easier because the kids have done so well that, like, the coaches pick up the phone a little different now. You know what I mean? And I don't have to call anybody any longer. They call me now. Yeah. And so I just think that it's an untapped market. I think Louisville is a place where there are, a lot of athletes that have come out of and stuff like that. And just that gift needs to be nurtured. I think there's a lot of people that, like, have a lot of want to. Just sometimes they just don't have the right particular people in their circle that can help them. And I think if everybody came together in the best interest for the individual kid and stuff like that, all coaches united from Little League to high school on and stuff like that, and it didn't make it about self, we'd be able to help even more kids. And so that would be my goal for the city.
Absolutely. Tell the people, man, your social, as far as what they can find you on Instagram, where you're located currently. If kids want to come to Aspirations Institution, they feel like they want to take their game to the next level, because if you are serious about taking your game to the next level, this is exactly where you need to be. And you not being in Louisville, Kentucky is an excuse. Shout out Carrington, Valentine. But yeah, tell them where they can find you on social media and where they can train with you at.
I'm not a big social media person. We got Twitter, we got Instagram, so Aspirations Fitness Institution on both, some form of fashion of that on Twitter. But you can pull up on me. I'm gonna be here. You find me up in here. So if you want work, you can come get working here. 7813 Beulah Church Road, Suite 110. I tell everybody come around the back because the front door will be locked more times than not. So back behind the Bungalow Joe's, somebody's gonna be in there at some point. No matter what time you come, somebody will be here. So if you want work, if you're serious about getting work, if you're serious about getting better, if you think that's what you really got on your heart, if you want to figure out if that's what's really for you, this is the place for you to be.
And that's just that on that, man. Chris, first guest on the pod, man. I told you I wanted this to be the first. I wanted you to be the first episode. Like I said, man, it's there's somebody to my left that just means a lot to me, man. He's believed in me more than I believed in myself at times. I feel like, if you all sat through this interview, you can see how his mentality has definitely bled on me, something that, I've tried to embody, someone I've leaned on, as I've said multiple times, through good and bad times. And, he's been the same person through whatever I've been through, whether that's being cut, working 9-to-5 jobs, trying to wiggle around my work schedule so we can get work in, or, while I'm in the NFL, we working out before, doing a camp, whatever the case is. Chris has always been down like a flat tire, stand on the fact that just best trainer in the world. I've seen him do way more with much less, and, never made an excuse about it. And like I said, I feel like that's why I'm able to embark on some of the stuff I do with the same mentality, because, this is somebody I've been around for over a decade now. If you're in the Midwest area specifically, like I said, Aspirations Fitness is the place to be. If you're serious about taking your game to the next level, you don't have to just be a football player either. We've got basketball players, male and female athletes that have come through this gym and, made their dreams a reality, albeit going to college or playing professionally. And so, the man of many words, man, I appreciate him coming on here and, speaking his 2 cents. Feel like, you ain't ever let the world know exactly who you are, what you about, but that's why we here, man. Out the gate. We out, man. Aspirations Fitness. Shout out Chris Vaughn. It's a wrap. First guest pod interview ever. As always, if you believe in you, I believe in you.